Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife review for you. Well, kind of. This is going to be a very first impressions. I've had this only for a couple hours because the mailman came super early this morning, which was great for you guys because you get this video earlier. Bad for me because I woke up at 8 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, this is a very, very cool little knife. This is the Kershaw Copper Natrix. I think they call it a Natrix Copper or Natrix 2.75-inch copper scales. They have a huge, long technical name for it. We're all going to call it the Copper Natrix, I'm sure. It is a smaller version of the Natrix with, as the catchy name would indicate, copper scales, which is the real highlight, and also D2 steel, which is great because the other Natrixes, whatever you want to call them, a lot of them are, 8CR13 MOV steel. So this is a much better steel. It is small, I will say. That was my biggest first impression was, ooh, that's really small. I knew that, like stat wise, obviously, I knew it. I knew it was coming, but once I got it in my hand, I was like, oh man, that is really small. Just to compare, I'll show you really quick. We're going to do size comparisons with some other knives here in a moment, but against the regular Natrix, this is the Natrix carbon fiber, which is the regular size. It's teeny weeny. It's very, very small. I pre-ordered this through Knife Center. I got mine. I know some other people that have them coming. They are still listed as out of stock on Knife Center and everywhere else. We've all been waiting on these for quite some time. I think I put a pre-order for this 7 months ago, maybe 6 or 7 months ago, a long time. But reasonably priced, between like 50, 57 and 60 bucks, 58 and 60 bucks, somewhere around there. So not a horribly expensive knife. We're getting D2. It is China made, but they did a pretty good job with it. I don't really have any quality issues with it at all. The usual stuff that you do see pop up, not that I can say the usual, because I've had pretty good luck with China Kershaws, but the common things you see, often mentioned things you see from Chinese Kershaws, not having those issues with this at all. They did seem to do a pretty good job with it. It's a pretty thing. There are some quick aesthetic differences to mention before we get into the stats. In some pictures, you're going to see the copper has striations on this raised portion. It's all milled out. It is not on the production version. And if you look on some updated photos, like I know, like for example, the one on Blade HQ does not show those. So not a big surprise there. The finish is also changed a bit. It has almost kind of a bit of a rose gold hueish to it, but that's kind of the joy of copper, is it's going to patina, it's going to change, it's going to become your personalized knife, whether you like it or not. And I've only been using this for a couple of hours, and my hands do not sweat at all. I don't know why. I'm a freak. They never have my entire life, so I've never had moist hands ever. It's not because I'm cool under pressure. It's because, I don't know, I have bad genes somewhere. I wish they did sometimes, but we're going to get off on a whole thing there. But you can see already it started to patina just a little bit, like down here, up around the pivot and stuff where I've been messing around. I've not taken this apart or anything yet. I'm going to, though, to try and make one tiny little thing better, which we will get to later on. But yeah, a nice deep carry pocket clip. Very handsome looking knife. I really do like the look of it. It's pretty cool. Let's do some specs, and I can mention another cool thing about it that is not correct on the specs you will see on some websites. Overall length of 6.5 inches, a blade length of 2.75 inches, blade thickness of 0.11, handle thickness 0.4 inches. So sticking with that nice slim, idea that the Natrix always has been. The stat that is better, actually, they have wrong on every website I've seen, but it is better, is they claim 3.7 ounces. I weighed it at 3.37 ounces, so it's a little lighter than they claimed, and that's pretty darn good for being basically a solid chunk of metal. I think that's pretty darn good. I'm very happy with that. Let's do a few size comparisons. I already showed you against the Natrix, the full size, but we'll do that again because I'm also going to line these up against, because someone mentioned, and they were right in the comments, that I never line stuff up when I do these. So that's against your full size Natrix. And then I think we will also put in your Kershaw Atmos. Another probably, so you can see even the Atmos is longer. So this is a pretty short, stubby little knife. And then we'll just do, since this is just a first impressions, I want to carry this for a while and, get some of that patina on it and then do a real full review, so I'm not going to keep you here too long. But I know as soon as this is available, a lot of you guys are going to want to snap it up, so I wanted to get something up so you guys could have at least my first impressions of it and have some sort of opinion before you buy it. But against your Spyderco PM2, so you can see it's not a big knife at all. I have two different positions I put my camera in depending on the size of the knife, and the camera is definitely in the small knife position right now. So now on to the actual fullish review. Yes, I do like the look of it. As I said, it's a bit pinker than I expected it to be, but you know, I'm also slightly colorblind, so don't take my word on that. It looks cool enough, and it's going to look cooler as time goes on. Quality is fine. The blade grind was even. This is a thing on the Natrixes that you often find that they mess up, is right here when they do the swedge. Sometimes it's not quite even. This one is. Very happy about that. That was one of the first things I checked. Because my Natrix carbon is even, but a lot of people's weren't. So that's all even. Blade centering is good. No lock rock, no blade play, all that good stuff. The hardware seems pretty nice on it. It does seem different than other ones. The pivot seems the same as my Natrix carbon, but these screws seem a bit nicer. I'll know more when I tear it apart here shortly. I love the shape of the Natrix blade, and making it smaller hasn't changed that. It's D2, which is a better steel than the 8CR13 wah-wah steel, so that the other ones come in, so that's good. I love the tip. These have a really pretty robust tip on them for this kind of sheep's footy sort of shape. I really like that. It's pretty good. It's a nice blade, pretty slicey, pretty thin. It's fairly thin behind the edge, not mind-blowingly thin, about 20 thousandths on average. I went all over, up and down the blade, measuring it. Average out about 20 thousandths, a little thicker towards the tip, a little thinner towards the back edge here. But yeah, pretty good blade. Can't complain about that. Ergonomically, not much to complain about either. It is small. Keep that in mind. It definitely is not quite a full 4-finger knife for me. As I said, I have really long fingers but very skinny ones, and it's not quite a full 4-finger knife, so that's not the best thing ever. But it does lock in really well. No, these scales don't have much traction, more than I expected, but not much. Would not have minded seeing those milling lines that were on the prototype photos. Also, good jimping up here. Jimping on the blade is really excellent. It's just enough to work without being over the top. Works pretty good. Carry-wise, it carries really, really well. I put it in my pocket and was, just testing it, putting stuff in the bottom of my pocket, pulling it out. Never was a problem. Nothing sharp to catch your hand on when you go by. This tiny little flipper tab, you never even see it, or feel it, I should say. Nice deep carry pocket clip. Very, very slim. And as I said, weight-wise, pretty darn good. 3.4 ounces. No, it's not as light as like an Atmos or something like that, but it's pretty darn light. It's for being a whole hunk of steel, hunk of metal, I should say. Yeah, not bad at all. Action, also very good. Snaps right out. I've done nothing to this. I haven't touched a pivot screw, anything, and it's been pretty darn good. Not completely fall shut. Didn't expect that when you have a blade this short. They don't weigh much. It's probably not going to be. But you know what? It's closer than I expected. And I bet if I take it apart and clean it, because I've never had a Kershaw come from China that wasn't dirty inside. And I bet I could make it even better. One odd thing, when it's shut, it's like a bank vault. When it's open, it's like a bank vault. But when it's halfway between, it's kind of clicky and rattly. That's slightly disappointing, but not a deal breaker by any means, but just mentioning that. So yeah, that's it for my first impressions. As I said, I'm going to hold on to this for a while, and hopefully maybe someday, miracle, my hands will start sweating and it'll change color a little bit. I love stuff that changes with patina and stuff like that. I really do, but unfortunately my hands just don't make it do it very fast. My son has hands that excrete acid, I think. He can make anything corrode, so maybe I'll just let him carry it for a couple of days, and then it will look like it's 40 years old. But my only worry with this knife is if I really like it, and I'm going to have to buy a bunch of other copper stuff. I'm so anal about my stuff matching that I carry every day. It's like, ah, now I need more copper stuff. What's gonna happen in my life? No, I'm just kidding about that. I do really want one of the copper olites anyway, so this is just my final excuse to get one of those, because hey, it's going to match my knife, so I got to get a copper olite, because I'm an idiot. Yeah, but pretty cool knife. I do recommend, if you've been on the fence about one, yeah, go grab one. They're pretty neat, and I know they're going to be full production, but I know that they're going to blast out as soon as they're available. That's why I wanted to get this video out, so you guys can get a hold of one and keep an eye out if you like this this little mini review. Pretty sweet little knife. Yeah, just got my only flaw with it really is just that little rattle when it's halfway open. But this isn't the only knife I've had do that. I'm not going to say it's the only one. I've got a couple others that do the same thing, and I usually don't even mention it. But on this one, I'm gonna, and it may be because of the metal too. You can hear it more. I don't know. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've been Brian. Have a good one.